Hello, everyone. Want to turn around and do a very brief little overview of what to expect if you're going to incorporate change, organizational development change into your business. Maybe, as we said earlier, you're getting rid of some sacred cows. Maybe you're trying to institute a new team approach or just a brand new approach in your business and what to expect of your employees. And a lot of this may seem very obvious, but it still needs to cover it. So let's go ahead and talk about how we handle the employees' reaction to change. Now, obviously, employees typically do not like change. They really do not. And if you got to understand why they don't like change to know how to address this problem. And I put there the four biggest reasons that we see. First of all, they know their current methods. They know how things are currently done. They're comfortable with that. They know what to do. And so, because of that, if you're going to institute something new, there often is this fear that whatever they've learned so far it's going to have to be something completely new. And so whatever they're doing currently will be lost. It will no longer matter. Whatever skills they have are not relevant. So there's always that fear that all that I have learned will lose its importance. And that's one of the reasons that they have that fear of losing it all. They also turn around employees fear that now you're going to make a change and they fear they cannot adapt to that change. I've actually seen employees quit a job because the company went from one type of technology to a new one, and an employee convinced themselves that there's no way they can handle this. It's too complex. I'll never be able to make it work. Forget it. I'll go work somewhere else. And they actually did, when in fact, I think that was probably not thought out very well. And another reason people fear change is because they figure that in the end, there will be a change in working conditions. You won't be able to do things as you did them before. It will require more work, more time, more effort, and therefore it's not acceptable. So you got to know why people don't like it. They like where they're at. They fear what they're going to have will be lost to something new. They fear they may not be able to adapt to the new change, and therefore they're not going to be happy with how things are going on. Now, when it comes to instituting any kind of change, employees typically go through about 5 stages uh, during an organization's changes. And I listed them here briefly, and I want to go over each one in a little bit of detail. All right. Stage one, as you see there, is what is called the denial stage. And this has been researched. This isn't just dreamt up. I put up there, it ain't going to happen. Employees here typically try to convince themselves and others that whatever it is that's being implemented is not going to happen. It's not going to take place. It won't be occurring. Um, Also, with stage one, in part of their denial, they'll convince themselves that the old methods are far better. All right. And they haven't even seen the new method yet. And they feel that way. And then additionally, you'll see employees turn around and start to make rationales and develop explanations why whatever the new change is will not work. A change of technology, a change of this or that, and they try to explain it away why it's really not going to be effective. Um, we see that denial a lot when you first get started. Stage two, the defense. Employees become defensive, all right? When they realize that the change is going to happen, all right, and changes will occur, they can become defensive. And they will tell you, we don't need this to justify their position and their way of doing things. All right? That's part of the defense there. What happens a lot of times with defense is this, and I hope you really pay attention to this. The reason people get defensive is because a lot of people wrongly believe that the change is occurring because of something the employee or employees are not doing right. Okay. They believe that change results from the fact that employees have been doing something wrong. And that's not always the case. You go to something new because it's better, not because people have been doing it wrong. So when you convince yourself that you're doing it wrong, you get defensive. Okay, I'm not doing it wrong. And the funny thing is, that's not their true feeling, but that has come out. Discarding. Stage three is discarding occurs basic when employees begin to discard their old ways of doing things. They realize it's going to happen. And so they start to incorporate the new ways. They begin their new ways, realizing it's time to let go and begin the next one. Stage four, which is easily the longest stage of all five of them, is adaptation. And by adaptation, it's time for employees to learn the new system. They have to test the new system. They have to understand it. They have to use it. They have to go through whatever methods of training or orientation. A great deal of time and energy is spent here. And if you are doing changes within your organization, you're going to a team approach, you're using new technology, you're starting with a new product line, or taking your business in a new direction, expect a lot of frustration at the adaptation level because people are going to make mistakes and they're going to get frustrated. If you do it right, you do your training right, they're going to figure it out, but that's just part of it. So don't be shocked when that happens. And then finally, stage five is what we call internalization. When employees have really finally learned the new system. Okay, they've really learned the new system and have adjusted to the new methods and the new, work environment and possibly new employees. We say internalization has occurred. I think I got it, which means very politely, I do have it. Okay, so this is an example. As a quick example to all of this, let me say this. When OTC went from the computer platform known as Blackboard to the computer platform known as Canvas, I saw all five stages of this. We are using a platform called Canvas. For the longest time, people said it wasn't going to happen. They'll never make the change. And then when they did say that the change is going to happen, people got defensive. Like, we're not using it right, or, something like that, when in fact that's not going to occur. Finally, people started to discard the old method and started to go through all the learning and the training, discarding and adaptation. There was a lot of frustration going on as mistakes were made and things were not caught, but it's gotten better and better and better, and people are finally starting to internalize it. So that's an example. You really need to know those five stages. I can't say enough about them. Then we turn around and talked about those factors that influence how well an employee will or will not accept the changes that are coming forth. First of all, you got to know that there really are two different types of change. Okay, I think I spelled that first one wrong. Evolutionary. Okay, evolutionary changes refer to just evolving. Maybe you go from one level of a program to a newer edition, a higher level. You go from Windows 8 to Windows 9, Windows 9 to Windows 10. Computer upgrades. Most changes are evolutionary. They really, truly are. The ones that cause a lot of fits are what we call the revolutionary changes. Revolutionary changes often are very, very big changes. They're major changes in how businesses are run. You might have a new product. You might have a new service that's being offered. Okay. And it requires new, we're opening up a brand new line of product, let's say. We have to learn all new skills on how to make it and how to sell it and the customer service behind it. We might have to hire certain employees we've never hired before. We might have to change the entire structure of the organization to adjust for it. Those are revolutionary changes. They're much more challenging than evolutionary changes. And people are very nervous when those things happen. Another thing to consider is, why are we changing? What is the reason behind the change? Okay. Employees accept, though they don't always like, changes. Okay. Especially if there's good acceptable reasons. If a company has to make changes because of financial constraints, the bottom line is in jeopardy, they understand. If there are external mandates, governmental laws, rules, changes from higher ups that they're outside of the control of the company, they understand that. Or if the company just has to improve to get better, all right, they understand that. Those are acceptable reasons, okay? But what's unacceptable is that if you ever turn around and see changes made seemingly out of nowhere or done on a whim, okay? Upper management says, hey, let's try this this team approach. Okay, everyone's redesigning their workplaces. Why don't we do the same thing? That seems like it's poorly thought out. It's done very quickly and without reason, and it's not met very well by employees at all. Okay. Finally, one of the last things that really influences how well employees accept change, it depends on who it's coming from. It depends on who it's coming from. Employees are much more receptive to change if the changes come from someone they know, someone they trust, an employee who's been in the trenches with them, a manager who has stuck by them and treats them well. They do not take well to a consultant. Some consultant shows up, is getting paid, says you got to make all these changes, and so on. Even if management agrees, a lot of times that's perceived in a very negative way. So, trusting someone from within the business as opposed to outside is a big one. How well the leader is liked. If people do not like a certain individual, then they don't tend to trust them, and so any changes they make, they don't go with. And what are the reasons, for change? What is their motive for change? I've seen organizations that have made changes in their healthcare or health insurance offers and premiums and stuff like that. And the reasons are not always very well spelled out. People don't understand why. And since it's unclear, you don't trust them. Your book talks about the example of the organization that turned around and had to relocate to a new building. And they couldn't understand why the building they moved to was so far away until they realized that the committee on picking a new building all lived within just a very short distance of the new locale. So the motive was they were picking it for themselves, and people can figure that out. Overall, change works best if a leader is well respected and the motives are clear. It's that simple. It really does sum up a lot. If you lack your employees' respect, if you have ulterior motives, employees will figure that out, and they tend to fight change. So those are some of the things I want you to know there. All right, give it a go, look that over. There'll be a little bit more to come. Job well done.